my presentation, and we're going to have a panel discussion to address some of these. So, as I was indicated in the introduction, our mission at SUTD is to advance knowledge, like all the great universities in the world, but in particular, to nurture and educate technically grounded leaders to help create a better world. It's quite a mission, isn't it? Yeah? Wouldn't you admit, right? And so we hope to have young people going off from this university with energy and passion and with all the educational ingredients, the skill sets that we might have in terms of teamwork, leadership, and these type of things to really change and affect the world. I'm going to tell you a little bit of how we do that. And of course, we do that as indicated in our title with a focus on what we call Big D design. I'll say more about that in a moment. So I hope you're really interested and excited, right? Yes, come on, everyone. Interested and excited. Yes. If you have no energy, then I'll have no energy, and we're not going to have a very good time here, right? So you have energy, I'll have energy, or try my best. So no less than our Prime Minister, this was something that he stated as we were developing this university. For those of you who've listened to him over the last couple of weeks when he came back from his trip to Silicon Valley, he is very articulate in articulating the fact that Singapore needs more engineers, right, for our economic prosperity and for our social prosperity, right? And this is a place that's going to create people to do that. I'm going to start by saying a few words about our curriculum. I'm not going to say everything, so go and talk to our staff outside and go talk to, we're going to have pillar presentations later to go in more detail. I'll give you an overview. So, unlike other universities, we have no traditional degrees. We don't have a degree in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering. I would argue that those degrees are an historical artifact. Instead, we say, what does the world fundamentally need? The world fundamentally needs what, everyone? Products, services, systems. Products, services, and systems. So we're going to organize our education around product, services, and systems. Now you'll see that underlying that is going to be a curriculum that has many of the ingredients you'll find in traditional degrees in terms of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. I'll show that to you as we go. But our whole overall view is to look to the outside world and see how we can contribute to the outside world. So we view our curriculum as outside in. If you go to many universities, you learn mechanical engineering, and you might apply it to the aerospace industry, the automobile industry, the communication industry, but it's a discipline moving out. Ours are applications moving in. So a different perspective if you think about that. Now, and we have these 4 pillars: architecture and sustainable design. So think about architecture in terms of buildings, in terms of neighborhoods, but writ large in terms of urban planning. So it's urban planning, urban studies, architecture, and large. Engineering product development. Think of any product of your choice. Airplanes, cars, automobiles, etc., all the way down to nanotechnology. Any mechanical, electrical, even molecular product, right? The world abounds in them, and it needs people to develop and design them. Engineering systems and design. Many of the most pressing challenges we face as a society are systems challenges. Energy, environment, urban transportation and congestion, healthcare, finance, right? These are important system issues, and we're going to be able to design systems that are robust and better in dealing with those kind of issues. And then finally, our 4th pillar, information system technology and design, computer software, computer engineering, big data. We know here about big data, pervasive sensors. Another way of thinking our curriculum is, the curriculum is organized around the physical world, architecture and products, the digital world, right, in terms of information system technology and design, and systems. Right? So it's another way of thinking about how we're looking at this curriculum. Now, I'm not going to go through everything inside the circle here, but one of the nice things about our curriculum is after studying here, you can go to any of these industries. In fact, our graduates who graduated just this past August, there's 25 key industries identified by the Singapore government. Our graduates were employed by 21 of those. So we have, through this multidisciplinary, broad yet deep curriculum, we prepare our students for essentially any industry. All industries need engineers, right? Many industries need architects, of course. So I'm going to say a little bit about this on the next slide. So this is a busy slide. I'm not going to go through great detail. I just want to give you some sense of the overall curriculum. We're going to have sessions coming up in terms of the pillars themselves. If you're going to be a technically grounded leader in today's world, you better understand math and science. I would argue also understanding math and science gives you an enduring education, because you never know what's going to happen in the world 5 years from now or 10 years from now. But if you understand the fundamentals of math and science, you got flexibility to move into new domains. So we start with math and science. We also have a signature Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences course the first 2 semesters. First course in particular is called World Civilization and Text. It looks at the 4 of the world civilizations, Chinese, Indian, Arabic, and Western, and so that students have a perspective, broad perspective on the world in terms of where these technologies are going to be used, what culture they're going to face, what ethical issues they're going to face, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So woven through this, and about a quarter of our curriculum is arts, humanities, and social sciences, even though you might think of us as a very techie place. And we are a very techie place. We're a very techie place. All right, so we do have that base. We have a signature design course in our second semester, which brings together architectural design and engineering design. And in that course, students are conceiving of products, services, and systems, they're prototyping them, and they're building them. So at the end of the semester, you will be building things, right, together with your fellow students. Third semester is actually quite unique. If you're going to be a technically grounded leader in today's world, you better understand basic math and science, you better understand arts, humanities, and social sciences, but you should understand technology broadly as well. What does that mean? No matter what you're going to do, we think you should understand the physical world, you should understand the digital world, programming and use of programming, and also you should understand systems, not just products or components. So all of our students in their third semester take a course in physical world, digital world, and systems, so they're broadly educated in technology as well as math and science, arts, humanities, and social sciences. Then we go off and we go to the pillars. And I'm not going to give you the details in the pillars, but as an example, if you go into the engineering product development pillar, you'll learn structures, you'll learn mechanics, you'll learn dynamics, the type of things you learn in a mechanical engineering curriculum, a civil engineering curriculum, an aeronautical engineering curriculum. So we have the fundamentals built in, woven into this, right? The engineering and technical fundamentals as well as everything else I've told you about. We imbue the curriculum with an understanding of entrepreneurship, and our students are exposed to entrepreneurship type activities all the time, elements of management, economics along the way, and as well as the arts, humanities, and social sciences. And then finally, we have throughout the curriculum, you see this blue color here, design, 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 design. So we have design in almost every course. We have design experiences that cut across courses, design experiences that cut across semesters, and we conclude the curriculum with a capstone design experience, industry-defined projects that are 2-semester projects that bring together people from all the pillars. So they're multi-pillar teams because essentially every issue we face in society and problems are multidisciplinary and require multiple disciplines. So it's rather unique in that sense. Our students over the period of 8 semesters will have taken about 20 significant design projects. They'll undertake them. So through that, they'll learn how to define problems. They'll learn how to organize their problem-solving approach to those problems. They'll learn team-building skills because they're working in teams that are doing that, and they learn communication skills. So they're going to be steeped in this big math, all this big math, deep math and science, but they're going to have all these other skills as well. They're very special people. You'll meet a couple of them later this afternoon. All right, so that's a little bit about the curriculum. We go about this by having a few very, very strong collaborations. And the first is with this place in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They call it MIT. Oh, that's it, MIT. You've heard of MIT, right? MIT. I've been an MIT faculty member for 44 years, right? A long time at MIT. It's one of the world's most special places. And this project, establishing SUTD, is established with MIT. It's the largest educational project in MIT's 150-year history. As indicated here, over 100 faculty have participated in this project. Over 100 faculty spent time at SUTD, working with us on research, doing some teaching, helping us get the university up and running, interacting with our students. If you go to your computer, if it's a certain type, it's got a little tag on it that says Intel inside. We have a virtual tag. It says MIT inside, right? So we've got 90% of our curriculum is been developed by MIT or by MIT with our faculty, so 90% of our curriculum. And we have, in a sense, by working so closely with MIT, bringing MIT's DNA, the passion, enthusiasm, entrepreneurship here to Singapore. As our chairman says, come to SUTD, you'll get an MIT education for 1/5 the price. And it is 1/5 the price. Even if you pay full tuition here, it's 1/5 the price, right? So it's a pretty good deal, too. We also have an exchange program with MIT, where we now send almost 100 students a year to spend some time at MIT, and about 30 students from MIT come spend some time to us in a leadership program working with our students. Not indicated on the slide, we have a major research center called the SUTD MIT International Design Center, which has facilities both at MIT and in Singapore. It's the largest university-based design center in the world. There's over 600 faculty, students, and staff participating in that center. It's got over 200 projects going on at any one time, doing wonderful and amazing things. You'll see some of them out in the outer area. But MIT is not our only major collaborator. We've tried to bring together the best of the East and West sitting here in Singapore. So we have a very strong relationship with Zhejiang University. By most third-party ratings, they're rated maybe 3, 4, or 5 in China in terms of one of the great universities in China. They're developing a set of courses for us that bring an Eastern perspective to the curriculum. For example, entrepreneurship in China or architecture in China. So they bring that to the table to us. We have a very large-scale research program with them, looking at energy, transportation, healthcare, and other issues. And then finally, we have, again, an extensive internship program with them. We send about 100 students a year to Zhejiang University. They send about 50 students with us. So many of our students get to experience China firsthand by going there, and almost all of them get to experience China by having 50 Chinese students come spend a semester with us. Same thing with MIT. Not all of our students can get to MIT, but you experience MIT by MIT students and faculty coming here. Our third major collaboration is we decided when we launched SUTD not to have a management school, business school, but clearly management and business is relevant if you're going to be an innovator and you're going to go to the marketplace. So we have a very strong relationship with SMU. They developed some courses for us, for example, on organizational processes, finance, and the like. We have collaborative research program with them, and we have 2 signature educational programs. One is if you take the right courses at SUTD, within a year after taking, actually 9 months after taking the curriculum here, you can get a master's degree. This is the best of left brain, right brain. I don't know which is left, which is right, but these are somewhat different organizations, somewhat different ways of thinking. You can really get 2 university experiences, 2 university cultures by doing that. And secondly, we have a signature dual degree undergraduate program where students in 4.5 years can get 2 degrees. One in engineering from SUTD and one from management at SMU. Just imagine having 2 degrees in 4.5 years and having the background expertise of both an engineering school and a management school. All right, so that's our collaborations. Now, the content is one thing. How we teach and what your life's going to be like if you come to this university is another. So what's your daily life going to be like? It's not going to be like this. And what I'm doing with you right now is terrible, right? I'm a terrible guy doing terrible things to you, right? Okay, right? We know from cognitive sciences, learning sciences, and neurosciences that passive lectures, big lectures like this, is a terrible way to learn. In fact, it's even worse. If you go to most universities, in their first semester or first couple semesters, if you're in engineering, you have big science classes, 300 to 500 to 700 person chemistry classes or physics classes, sitting in rooms like this. Where the professor's like this little thing down at the bottom with these PowerPoint slides, right? You can hardly see the professor. You don't interact with the professor at all. It's even worse than that. The professor lectures on Monday. You might have a small group recitation on Friday. You have a homework set due the week after that, and the homework set gets back to you the week after that. So from the time you're exposed to a concept until you get any feedback as to whether you understand that concept or not, it's 3 weeks. And we know from neuroscience that multiple feedback loops and fast feedback loops are a much, much better way to learn in terms of how the brain operates, all right? So those programs are designed really to, in some ways, inhibit learning as much as to help learning. Not that there aren't some great teachers in venues like this, there clearly are. So we reject that model. Come to SUTD, certainly the first 3 semesters, we're organized around what we call cohort-based classrooms. They're learning communities, 50 students in the classroom. That's in a room that they basically own that room. The faculty come to them. The way we would teach is we'll go into the room, we'll teach a little bit something, a concept, for example, momentum, and then immediately the students are at the whiteboard or at their desks, either building something or solving a problem that requires momentum. Very quick feedback loops, much peer learning, and our faculty are much coaches and mentors as they are traditional lecturers and teachers in that sense. We know this is a much, much, much better way to learn. It's actually a much, much more fun way to teach, right, instead of just teaching to a big audience like this. In order to do this, we have a very small student-to-faculty ratio. If you go to most universities, it's 20-to-1. We have 11-to-1, right? So there's a more intimate relationship between the faculty and the students. We do a lot of this collaborative hands-on learning. So there's constantly people are in active learning mode, right? Because again, that's a better way to learn. And so this develops this peer group. It develops close relationships among the students and the faculty. And then finally, it brings all this theory to life, right? Because you see it used, right, almost immediately. So one, it motivates the theory, and it shows you the use of the theory. We do the theory because we do MIT physics, we do MIT biology, MIT chemistry, MIT math. All right, so that's a little bit of the day-to-day life in terms of the classroom. I'll say more about outside the classroom in a moment. Given today's world, I think limiting ourselves to a small island with 5.5 million people might not be the best way to think of the world writ large, right? So we want many of our students, if not all, to have an international experience. I've already mentioned 2 programs. Through these 2 programs, as much as 200 students go off to either China or to the US, to MIT. But we have other programs that we are now just launching this coming year with other signature institutions, with Berkeley, Stanford, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I happen to be a Stanford graduate, and it's a great, great place. But it's not MIT. It's not MIT. Shh. We won't tell Stanford that, right? And it's a great place. These are great universities. Berkeley, of course, is a great university as well. So some of our students will have opportunities to go to Stanford, to Berkeley, and other things as shown here. All right, now one aspect of our educational and your day-to-day life was the classroom. The other is things outside the classroom. And what do I mean by this? Well, most universities, they cram the curriculum with course after course after course, and all you do every day is you run from course to course, and then after the day's over, you run back to your home or your dormitory, and you do your problem sets, and then you repeat this day in and day out, right? You have really no time to pursue your passions or your interests in any sense. Class. So we, again, reject that model. We restrict the number of courses the students take to 4 in each semester. And where you would typically have a 5th or even more than a 5th course, we say, let's give that back to the students. So they can pursue their interests, they can pursue their passions, the type of things you'll see outside in terms of whether it's electric vehicles, hovercrafts, music, athletics. What's your passion? What do you want to do? Do you want to change lives? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do social good? You can do that. So our students have, on their own, created over 90 clubs in which they do this. We suspend our classes every Wednesday afternoon and every Friday afternoon, so there's no classes at SUTD. It's time for the students to pursue their passions. It also means that the students take some ownership and some responsibility for their education. And that's a good thing as well, because I think they learn some skills from doing that by developing these clubs, organizing these clubs, keeping them, maintaining the clubs, et cetera, et cetera. So an important part of ours. Another is our residential education. For the first 3 semesters, all of our students live on campus. So they develop deep relationships with each other because they're living together in these quarters. But it's also very consistent with our approach to education in terms of this notion of a vibrant campus, a bubbling campus, a 24/7 campus. If you're doing design and it comes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you're really interested in your project, the last thing you want to do is get on a bus for an hour and a half and go home, right? Why do that, right? So instead, you can, early evening, have some dinner, get together again with your fellow students, work in your dorms or come back to the campus because the dorms are right here on campus. And so again, it leads to a very different lifestyle, one I think that we think bubbles with enthusiasm, passion, and the like. Okay, parents in particular. We get this all the time, parents. If my son or daughter comes to SUTD, will he or she get a good job? It's a darn good question, darn good question. The answer? Yes, yes. I'll say it again. Parents, mom, dad, cousins, grandparents, whatever you are. If your child, student, boy or girl comes to SUTD, they will get good jobs. I have a little bit of data on that. Not a lot of data, but a little bit of data. All right? One is we have over 600 companies and government organizations that have pledged to work with us. They provide internships for our students. They come and give lectures on campus. They participate in panels like we're going to have today. They're involved with us in a wide variety of ways. It's an enormous number, right? And then you'll see many signature companies on this list, the multinationals, signature local companies, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go through the entire list. That's one element. We've graduated our first class in August, and up to this point, almost 90% of them are gainfully employed or have gone to graduate school, 90%. And I would say of the other 10%, many of them just don't want to even think about getting a job at this point. Bless them, right? They're going to live to be 100 years old, right? All you young people are going to live to be 100 years old. If you want to take a gap year, take a gap year. Enjoy it, right? So, but those that want to have found employment at very good positions. This tells a little bit about the breakdown, but the next slide tells you a little bit about where they're getting jobs. Clearly, they're getting jobs in engineering and architecture, right? Because we're training people for engineering and architecture. But you'll see on here finance, you'll see consulting, you'll see logistics, product development, government service, energy, environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As I indicated earlier, our students can go anywhere and do anything, and they are going everywhere and doing everything, getting very good jobs. Our students are also, some of them, doing startups, right? So, and I'm not going to go through detail. There's 7 startups already from just our first class of students. The second one is pretty interesting. They've been working with us and trying to bring design thinking to the secondary school system in Singapore, because design thinking helps you understand your math and science better. It helps you think about problem solving in a wide variety of ways. Okay, so that's hopefully given you some sense of the overall curriculum, some sense of what day-to-day life is like at this university, some sense of our approach to education, some sense of how we're collaborating with others around the world, and a variety of experiences we can provide for the students in the audience. I hope you get a bit of a sense that this place it's a happening place. It's a place that's got passion. It's got energy. Yes, passion, energy. I've lost you all, See, because why? It's the wrong way to teach. It's the wrong way to interact. We should have small group sessions. We will later. With that said, could I invite our panelists to please join me on the stage? How many of us are there? Keep coming. Whoa. My chair has a hole in it. I'm going to fall through, Okay. So, given we've got a large panel and given we've got a limited amount of time, I'm not going to give deep introductions to everybody on the panel. You'll see their names here and you'll see where they're coming from, and we'll say a little bit about that. So I'm going to first start by asking the panelists, first of all, please be brief in your answers because we've got lots of us here, right? Crisp and energetic, right? Because we're all like that, right, at SUTD. So I'm going to start with Adam and ask Adam a little bit about, he actually comes from an interesting background because he was a senior executive at Citibank before he started his own enterprise. Adam, look out 5 years, and what type of talent do you think the world's going to need in terms of either in banking or in technology-based companies like the one you're starting?
Sure. I think...
Is that on? It's okay? It's on, okay.
I think we're going to need innovators and we're going to need problem solvers. And, you can almost interchange that word. I think in the finance industry, for sure, we're going through a big upheaval in regulatory oversight. My other business that I've started is in space and aerospace technology. and that's going through some big changes now. There's been a big renewed focus on space exploration, commercial space activity. If you look at drones and UAVs, there's probably the next 5 or 10 years is going to revolutionize the world, revolutionize how society behaves with drones and using drone technology. And all of these industries need people that can innovate and solve problems. And I don't think that's a 5-year thing. I think that's a 5, 10, 15, 20-year outlook.
So people who innovate, right? In
Innovate and problem solve.
And problem solve. And hopefully engineers and architects are equipped to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dwight, you come from one of the world's great companies, one of a very large company with a spread all over the world, right, in terms of Accenture. Again, could you reflect a little bit on that? What do you think Accenture's needs are going to be, say, 5 years out, in terms of students' expertise, in terms of the knowledge coming from universities?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's exactly what you guys are doing, exactly what you're doing here. It is systems thinking, right? It is design thinking. It's thinking about the end needs, the end consumer, and working your way back much more. I mean, we've got plenty of people who can think in silos, and the world has come a long way by thinking in silos. The breakthrough thinking is to think across silos, and that is the area that we really make the biggest difference when we hire people who are able to do that.
Yeah, you must need some people in the silos as well, I assume, right? But also a set of people that can look across them. Is that correct or no?
No, absolutely. And so we look at it a couple of different ways, right? I mean, you've got to be really good at what you do in that particular thing, whether it's a data scientist, whether it's a user experience person, but you also need to be able to think the broader implication of what you're trying to do, because the analytics, the big data, has only limited value without the context of what you're applying it to. And so having a sense of what you're applying to, what value you're trying to bring, what are you trying to innovate is the critical part.
So in some ways, understanding problem identification as well as problem solving, right?
Yeah, and it's really interesting you say that, because what we tell, well, at least the thing that I try to make sure our problem solvers know is that the single most important thing to solving a problem is defining the problem correctly. And so getting the right problem definition is over half the battle.
And hopefully the fact that our students have had to solve 20 design problems and in many cases define the problems at least gives them some skills in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Z, can you give us a little bit of sense from the architecture community? Sure. No?
Thank you. So I'm from BP, specifically the trading arm of BP, and I guess just hearing the two of you kind of talk about your challenges, I'm quite amazed and how it's surprised that I think there are actually more similarities across kind of industries than I kind of previously kind of imagined. So specifically in oil trading, I think some of the biggest challenges, I mean, compared to 12 years ago when I joined the company, already we're seeing a lot more competition in the industry. Traditionally, the oil kind of trading industry, it's one where the oil majors play a very big role. Over the last 5 to 10 years, we see kind of new players coming into the market. So national oil companies, other trading houses. What we're also seeing is that the marketplace is shrinking. I mean, we used to be a lot more regional. It's a lot more global these days. And I guess access to big data, for instance, to be able to kind of pull together all this data in a very volatile, very kind of complex kind of environment, the ability to come up with creative kind of solutions to help us kind of look forward and actually really to maintain our advantage in the industry it's key. And it's also kind of some of the key kind of attributes or qualities or areas that we hope in the graduates that we bring into the organization will be able to help us tackle.
So BP is clearly one of the great science-based companies in the world. It has been for decades, if not a century. And one thinks about basic science in a wide variety of ways. How relevant is the arts, humanities, and social sciences to what you do as well?
A lot, because specifically, I guess, in the trading kind of arm, for instance. So BP in Singapore, the biggest kind of business that we have is a trading organization with about 600 people in the trading organization. And the ability where kind of social sciences, where economics kind of come in, at the end of the day, we are kind of, so whatever technology or creative solutions that we come up with, they're only useful if they actually add to the bottom line of the company. And that's where actually having a broader view, you could come up with a lot of technology kind of projects, but they will only be useful if you can actually convert them into P&L or into kind of your bottom line. So the ability to kind of see across, that is very critical to our business.
Pauline, you bring an interesting perspective because not only are you practicing architecture, but you're doing some teaching with us, right? So you get a chance to interact with our students.
Yes,
Could you
that's
just
right.
reflect a little bit upon your experience with the students?
Yes, sure. So I'm from CPG Consultants. We are a multidisciplinary consultancy firm with a large architecture department. So I am teaching the architecture design studios as well. So I kind of know both sides of the industry and the teaching part quite well. So the architecture industry is in a little bit of a crisis right now because we are being asked to do more with less. There are not many construction projects going on, and everyone's going after the same projects. So this is where I think the skills that the students learn here become very important. We are relying a lot more on technology to do more. So in the past, if there were many experts that were required to do one task, we're finding that with the skills that SUTD students have, they're able to multitask and to accomplish a lot more just by themselves. At the same time, I think that because there's a collaborative culture here, they seem to be able to adapt well in the working environment and to work very well as teams. So my experience with the students so far, both in the office and also in school, have been very positive.
Say that again? I didn't hear you. You can say it again, it's okay. Clifford, now Clifford is graduated with his undergraduate and he's now pursuing his master's degree in architecture. Could you say a little bit, Clifford, about your experience at SUTD in terms of some of the courses you've taken and in particular technology and architecture?
Okay, yeah, as Pauline have also mentioned that in architecture industry, there's a lot of collaboration, all this that's happening between architects and also engineers, for example, like mechanical engineers and all the civil engineers. So all these collaborative aspects have also been nurtured in SUTD with, like, for example, our capstone project, which happens in the final year, in the senior year. So I happen to be in the same team as other engineering students, engineering systems and also engineering products. So there's this seamless kind of collaboration and communication process that's happening in the discussions that we had during the capstone project to actually solve problems, real life problems that the industry has actually given to us. Yeah.
Good. Madeline, you're now working at MSD, which in the U.S. I guess is called Merck, right? Again, one of the world's great companies. How is design thinking and your design education, how does it relate to what you do, and is it relevant to that industry?
Hi, so I'm currently working at MSD. I'm doing a graduate program in IT. So in SUTD, when we do our projects, we get to work with industry people and do actual projects that impact the industry even though we're still studying. And at SUTD, we focus a lot on design. And design is not just about making things look good, but how do you make information more presentable to people so that they can absorb it better? And how do you design your projects in a way that people can see it and understand what's going on? So this prepared me a lot for working in my company, because when you have to collaborate with so many people across time zones, you need to be able to disseminate information properly and making sure that the things are presented well so that they know what's going on. And I think this has prepared me very well when I was in SUTD doing my projects.
Good, thank you. Adam, you've had the chance, I mean, you spent a lot of time on our campus, right, in our International Design Center, and so you work very closely with many of the faculty, many of the students. Just some impressions, the impressions you have in working with them.
Well, I enjoy it very much.
Great.
A lot of the things that we're doing are kind of cutting edge stuff that's never been done before. So what I've really enjoyed is basically putting the problem on the table and saying, okay, let's get some ideas together about how we can solve the problem, what's the solution. And everything is kind of like product-based, you know, so we're building drones, we're building rocket engines, we're building vehicles. And what I've loved about working with the students and the faculty is if they don't know how to do it straight away, they're very well taught to go and find out how to do it, and they collaborate very well, and they reach out to organizations like MIT professors that also help, and come up with really good solutions to some of the problems, and very quickly too, because I'm often in a hurry to get some new technology project done, and the speed of coming up with an idea and rapidly prototyping is something I think this university does a very, very good job of.
Thank you. Great to hear that as well. Dwight, Accenture in your business is hiring people constantly, lots and lots of people constantly. Just reflect a little bit about if you're looking at some of the students in the audience or graduates, as you're thinking about hiring them, what are you looking for?
Right. So we're looking for top talent. I'm sorry. So we're looking for top talent, and that comes in a couple of packages. One is the technical skills. There's just do you have a mastery of the technologies that you've studied, but also do you have the leadership and interpersonal skills, and then systems thinking, right? Because we're not going to just put you in a box and have you sitting there pushing buttons all day long. We need you to work in small teams like you do here. We need you to do problem solving of unclear problems, right? So it's not just here's a data sheet, go crank it out, but here's a problem statement. Revise it, work in a team, and figure it out. And then if you have to reach out, but the ultimate objective is to solve that problem. And so what attracts us here, and the fact that the reason why we've hired 4 or 5 of your graduates already, and intend to hire more, is that...
Say that again?
We've hired 4 or 5 of your first batch of graduates, and we're going to hire more, is, I guess if I back up, I've recruited at MIT. I mean, I just moved here a couple of years ago, and I recruited at Stanford and Harvard and University of Chicago, and so I know what the best world-class student profile looks like. And it looks like what you're doing here, right? Obviously, the collaboration with MIT is a great start, but how you've innovated the curriculum and how you're approaching it with fresh thinking is something that's absolutely, we've been pushing those universities more for, and we're seeing a fresh start giving you a leapfrog effect on that. And so the types of students that you're attracting and the way you're teaching them and the way you're teaching them to think is far beyond just the analytics of the day of the technologies. This is going to change really fast, right? But it is the ability to problem solve, the ability to collaborate, the ability to think in a interdisciplinary way that will be something that carries forward. Plus, I mean, just walking around, you can just feel the energy. I was jealous, right? My engineering school was nothing like this one. So the hands-on practical experience is something that I think is a competitive advantage.
So that's why I think having this, the fundamentals are really important, right? Because you can move like, and in some ways the process of education is as important as the content, right? Because as you say, who knows what the issues are going to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now, right? In your industry or other industries. Now, Z, you're in an industry in which prices go up and down pretty rapidly, right? And they're at a certain point now, right? And how do you prepare people to work in that kind of environment?
It's funny, so I get asked that quite a lot, but I mean, specifically, I work in the trading organization, so we actually do like the volatility. Of course, and the rest of the kind of oil industry, for instance, could have a very different kind of relationship to it. But volatility does create uncertainty and complexity.
And opportunities, right?
Huh?
And opportunities.
And opportunities, exactly.
Yes.
So the question is, how do you, and the markets would change at any one time, the situation that you find yourself in could be different. Then the question is, how do you, whether it's the graduates that we have, whether the experienced kind of hires that we have, how do we kind of manage an environment like this? How do you kind of see the opportunities in a volatile and uncertain kind of environment?
Mm-hmm. Pauline, as you know, our students are really steeped in math and science and technology and all this kind of stuff. Are we creating the right kind of architects? Are we creating the right type of architects?
The type of?
Architects.
Architects.
Yeah, architects.
The first batch of architects will graduate this year.
Yes.
And I know that at least one of them will be joining us. So far, I think we're going in the right direction because we have had many interns come join us over the past 3 or 4 years, and many of them have surpassed our expectations. So we are an industry that constantly needs a lot of help, just because of the competitiveness of the environment. And the students have at times really stepped up and played a very central role in some of our endeavors. So, for example, we might be going in for a major project that involves, say, 18 to 20 different consultants in our team. And we might have to coordinate all this information to come up with a design proposal or project proposal. So I've had an intern who was able to handle all this communication and collaboration between the different parties, and to actually be a very important person in pulling the whole thing together. So I was very impressed that, you know, a student can actually have that kind of capability. So I think that SUTD is definitely going the right direction, keeping the curriculum kind of grounded, and the links with the industry is very strong.
Okay, now I'm going to go to our alumni in 1 second. Before that, I'm going to alert the panel, because we don't have a lot of time. So to conclude the panel, after they talk, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to give some advice to the young people in the audience. But I'm going to try to do this in a rather different way. You get to use 3 words. 3 words. So I'll alert you to this so you can think about it before I get back to you, right? That'll sort of be fun, right? Maybe, I don't know, all right? So before we do that, we've talked about, and they're all thinking now, of course. So we've talked about some of the important ingredients of our curriculum, and one has been the residential experience, one has been the fifth row experience. Madeline, could you talk a little bit about the fifth row in terms of your experience with the fifth row, and how do you think it affects the overall experience here at SUTD?
Hello. Yeah, hi. So being part of the Pioneer Batch, we had to set up all the fifth rows on our own. And so it was definitely a very interesting experience to see what did you want to do as a student and how do you set it up. And we had to do pitching and everything for our own funding. So it's really a lot of ownership on the club. And you really need to put in the effort, and there's the Fab Lab and everything. So you are able to build whatever you need and whatever you want to. And because I was part of the student government, so I don't think there's any other opportunities out there where you can be in a student government and work very closely with the staff and faculty to come up with policies that actually impact your own classmates and cohort.
Okay, and Clifford, maybe you could talk a little bit about the residential experience.
Sure. So once you come into SUTD in the first year, you have to stay in a hostel. So when you come into the hostel, you have more time with your friends. And as you said previously, design is an iterative process. So once you come in the morning, like you have lecture, you have classes, then you have all these design projects that is happening, right? You want it to keep happening, keep meeting your friends. And I think having a hostel life is pretty helpful in the sense. Another thing will be the many events that we also organize for the residents. So all these events which actually unites the community together, bonding, and brings the people together more closely.
Okay, now we're going to do my little exercise, all right? So these 3 words, advice to the young people in the audience. Adam.
Okay. Focus.
3 words.
Focus.
Focus.
Passion.
Passion.
And unlimited energy on cheating.
Unlimited energy. That's a hyphenated word?
Yes.
I guess. Dwight.
The most important, apply, accept, immerse.
Ooh, fantastic.
So I'm probably going to draw on the kind of BP kind of values. So courage, I think it's important. Energy and passion is also very important.
Courage, energy, passion. Very good.
For me, it's to dream, to persist, and to do.
For me, be yourself, have a passion, and also dream.
Okay, mine's very simple, so it's just do it.
Just do it. All right, you stole my 3. Okay. Thanks very much to the panel. It's really been great. Thank you very much.